Fat Jack JW here, and it is October 31st, Halloween, and I got a whole stack of movies right there that we're going to go through. These are all horror movies from mostly just what I grew up with, and my favorite ones, and I kind of picked the ones that stood out to me that when I was growing up, that this is kind of the ones that I watched a lot. So I figured I would go through it in no particular order. Just got a whole big stack of them right here. I'll actually talk about this one first because I couldn't find it. I know I own it, but I thought I owned it. I just can't find it. The Exorcist. The Exorcist is absolutely one of the most realistic to me movies about possession that you can possibly watch. And I'm a really big sucker for possession movies. They just get me every time. I always have. Because to me, I feel like it's the most real. It really is the most realistic type of thing. It's really freaky because it's one of those things where, you just, how do you deal with that? So, it's not like a Michael Myers or a Jason or anything like that. So, all right, so let's go through the list here. Let's take a look at it. The first one here, like I said, in no particular order, Jaws. Growing up on an island, yeah, when your grandmother's favorite movie, one of them is Jaws. Yeah, I'm still scared to death of the water. So, yeah, we wore this videotape out. So, the other one here would be the Vincent Price movies. Yes, I love Vincent Price. The one that comes to my mind is Theater of Blood. I watched that a lot, owned that on tape and everything, and did watch that quite a bit. In this pack, this is actually a really interesting pack because you got Tales of Terror, Twice Told Tales, Theater of Blood, Madhouse, Witchfinder General, and The Abominable Dr. Fives. Really cool pack to have. Do watch those a lot often. And of course, the old standby, the classic Halloween, Michael Myers. I remember renting that from Blockbuster on tape, And I remember that was really cool because I distinctly remember we watched that on a Friday, and I just was like so intrigued in it. I was like, oh my gosh, I got to go back and watch it. And I remember seeing, these were the images, and I remember seeing that image a lot, thinking about it. And I remember like after it ended, I'm like, I got to see part two. What happens? It was like an addiction. I wanted to see part two. I was like, we got to see part two. So, as of course, we, rented, and part two is definitely on this list. Donald Pleasance, really, everything, how it's thrown together really makes it. And then, of course, the other two relating to Michael Myers that I really like is 4 and 5. Own both of these on videotape, and they were the best. 4 was the first one to actually frighten me. I'm not sure, what it was about it, but part 4 was the first one to actually frighten me. And the cool thing is inside the disc, it actually has the old original cover, the look of the cover that I remember on videotape. And here he is kind of busting through the night sky. It's like kind of ripped up here. It's kind of neat. I remember seeing that. It's like, the return of Michael Myers. That was a really cool one. And part 5 is just really awesome because it's just kind of a continuation. So far as the Myers films go, those are the ones that are my top that I really like. Although part 6 did kind of have an effect on me. I did go to the theater and see that with my father. And that was really, it was interesting, but it's not one I watched a lot. Part 3 is cool in its own way, even though it doesn't have anything to do with Michael Myers, but it does have Tom Atkins in it. And, what horror movie from the 80s is not complete without him? All right. Night of the Living Dead. Now, this is the remake. The remake was one that I watched a lot growing up because mostly I think I perhaps did not watch the original so much because I saw this one first, oddly. This is the one directed by Tom Savini. This was such a cool movie for me growing up. The sense of them being held in this house and boarding up the windows and the zombies coming through, and it was just something cool about it. So I always remembered that one, and I did buy this on videotape and watched it a lot. Another one that I had and I watched a bunch is Poltergeist. Again, another supernatural type entities kind of going on here. Poltergeist is certainly at the top of my list. It's the ultimate haunted house type movie, really. Toby Hooper directing it. I believe he did direct this one. Uh, yeah, Toby Hooper, director of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Poltergeist. The other one would be The Omen, Gregory Peck, Lee Remick. The Omen was one that I certainly remember. We rented this on video, and it was such a interesting film. I don't know if we maybe perhaps watched it on TV first, and then we rented it, or I don't remember, but I do recall seeing this a lot and watching this a lot. This was one of my favorite movies. I always thought it was interesting that Gregory Peck did a movie like this, but certainly one of them that stands up there with The Exorcist. All right. The Evil Dead by Sam Raimi. The Evil Dead is another videotape rental memory. That this is the cover I remember on the tape, and it was just such a cool movie. I remember watching it, and I remember the tape was not, it was like messed up. I remember the tape was like messed up when we rented it. We actually had to get our money back for it or get another rental or something like that. And then I think I later watched the rest of it on a tape I found and I bought. And I was like, whoa, this is so cool. Like, I can't believe we didn't see the whole thing of this, but The Evil Dead. Absolutely a crazy one. Donna the Dead. Donna the Dead. I remember with my brother, we actually watched this on TV, and we recorded it onto a tape. We taped it off the television, watched it, and this is such a wild and crazy party of a movie. The late great George Romero. I tell you, this is such a great film. Hard to find, but it ends up out of print quite often. So I was very fortunate to pick up this when it first got released. It's like the ultimate edition. It's got like 3 different editions of the movie and a heck of a documentary. George Romero, Tom Savini, this is like the pinnacle of zombie right here. Of course, the Friday the 13th, Jason Voorhees, it wouldn't be complete without it. For me, really what does it is the first 8. Yep, the first 8. Part 7, The New Blood, is the very first one I ever saw on Joe Bob Briggs' Monster Vision on TNT on television. And that was the first time I ever saw Jason. I remember Jason was always this like, I think honestly my brother might have told me about it before I even knew about it. He said, oh, Jason, like that. We actually saw it. I actually saw it for the first time. It was really cool, and I've always liked the film. So 1 through 8 will always be my picks because that's what was on the shelves in the rental store growing up for me. 1 through 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, there's that many of them. All right. Here's kind of an oddball, screwy movie that I bought this on from Dr. Video, which is a video place in town that was one of those like almost like like the mom and pop ones that was like in a dungeon kind of thing. Dr. Video was a great place. I miss those days, man. And Psycho Cop, yes, a very, very hard to find movie. This is a very hard to find. In fact, this one here is a bootleg copy. It seriously is a bootleg copy of the movie. You really cannot. It's so hard to find this, but I bought this off of somewhere, eBay or something like that. It's the only one that exists that I've ever found. Psycho Cop is a comedy B horror movie. Do not expect anything serious out of this. This is straight up like a screwball movie. But I remember buying it on tape, and it's always kind of stayed with me. It's such a cool movie. All right. Of course, Nightmare on Elm Street. Freddy Krueger. I mean, come on. You guys want to know what my favorite horror, like everybody's got Leatherface, Michael Myers, Jason. Me, it's Freddy. Freddy was who I always liked. Freddy's my favorite slasher character. For me, the Nightmare on Elm Street series, the first one always creeped me out, grossed me out. I remember buying it on videotape and watching it with my mom. That one always freaked me out and grossed me out. The first one was definitely high up there. Wes Craven, long live the master, man. Another late great director along with Toby Hooper and stuff. But Wes Craven really, he's so awesome. So for me, Nightmare on Elm Street 1 through 6. That's it. That's the ones that I really like is 1 through 6. And this set has like I think 1 through, gosh, I don't know. This has got all of them or so, but I always watch the 1 through 6. All right. Speaking of Tobe Hooper, The Man, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. This is the great image I remember. This is cool because this one's on tape. This was the one. Rented that on video and absolutely was just like blown away. I remember seeing that very, very young. Yeah, I grew up in, I guess by today's standards, no parents would do how cool my parents were growing up. I mean, this was the 80s, man. It was like so different. All right. House. House, man. This is such a cool movie. Directed by, I believe it is directed by him. Yeah, or no, Steve Miner, but it's produced by Sean S. Cunningham, the creator of Friday the 13th. House is just one of those almost comedy, really crazy, outlandish haunted house type movies. Gotta see it to believe it. Cool one. They made a bunch of these, if I remember. I've never actually truly seen like 3 or 4. But House and House 2, I do remember those, and I remember having those on videotape. This is part of a set of 1 and 2, but that's certainly cool. And The Shining. I remember we went and rented this. My dad was telling me about this. Oh man, The Shining, The Shining. We actually went scouring through the video stores and we actually finally found it for rent. And he's like, oh, The Shining, we got it, so yeah, that one's up there. Jack Nicholson's performance in The Shining is so over the top. I mean, but yet it's so realistic to me. It's like if you could imagine somebody going through a cabin fever like that, that would be what it would be like. Okay, and the last films, but not least, are near and dear to my heart. These are my favorites. Always will be. This is so VHS days right here for me. Phantasm. This movie has such a huge cult following. Phantasm is always up there for me. With that original cover, I remember that. We rented these from the grocery store. For some reason, our local grocery store in town had an abundance of these obscure, strange horror flicks, and this was one of them, and that's, Phantasm. And I'm going to list, there's 5 of them now, and these are my favorites, the first 3. That's just what it was. So that's the original cover that I remember. And then, of course, Phantasm 2. Now I want to show this because the slip cover comes off, and that's the original cover I remember on videotape. Phantasm 2, the ball is back. I always felt like the ball was like coming out of his eyeball for some reason because he is kind of squinting like this. But no, that's just the way it looks. Phantasm 2. Watch that one a ton. I actually finally found these all on videotape because the video store finally sold them. And I couldn't believe they were selling them. I was like, I couldn't grab it and bring it up fast enough. I think I bought Phantasm first one from videotape for $4.99. I just couldn't get my money out quick enough to do it. Helped my dad out a lot at the furniture store to make my money to buy these tapes. And Phantasm 3. Lord of the Dead, Phantasm 3. This one does not have the original cover art, but my Blu-ray releasing does. The original cover art in this is pretty cool too. But yeah, so the Phantasm, the first 3 is what I watched the most. Just love it, man. VHS days, those are the ones. So have a safe Halloween. I'm Batjack JW. Those are my rough picks on movies that stand out to me from growing up in horror movies and stuff like that. And a lot of my fascination with these and addiction for these is this was my childhood. This is me growing up and seeing these in videotape, and I think that's what a lot of it comes from. And I think I mention it all the time. I feel like I'm so lucky to have grown up experiencing that, getting to go to the rental stores, seeing those old boxes, those old VHS boxes, and this is what it was. It was all about that. There was just something cool about seeing these. I mean, they knew back in then they knew, okay, the cover is gonna, the movie itself may not be that good, but the cover, that's what's gonna grab you. And I remember as a kid growing up and going through the video stores and seeing these and being intimidated, challenged, and like, do you dare to pop me in the VCR and check it out? And I remember seeing the image on the back there of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It was so, man.